Good morning, CWCC. Welcome to Girls Club. I am super excited about our Girls Club guest this week, my friend Priya Burkett. Priya and I went through Leadership Denver together in 2016, so we're the Sweet 16 class. So Priya, thank you so much for being with us for this. Go ahead and introduce yourself to our members.
Sure. I'm Priya Burkett. I am a mom, a wife, a philanthropist, and a leader in Denver. And I'm super excited to be here with you.
Yeah, thanks. And Priya, you know how this goes. We usually talk about a topic that's near and dear to you. And you and I have been talking about, kind of the past year and COVID and everything that has gone on in the past year. And I know particularly for women, it was a tough year. And there were a lot of things that we took a deep, hard look at and a lot of transitions made in life. And you were kind of talking about it being a year of transition for you, personally. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. It was interesting, the timing of COVID for everyone, don't get me wrong, for the world. And prior to even COVID hitting, I had two significant deaths in my family, which helped kind of turn the page in like figuring out like what my next chapter will be in that transition for my life. And then COVID hit, and that basically made me want to explore more options. There were more opportunities out there, only because like time was like I had that much time to like kind of think about what I wanted to do. And it's interesting what death in your family makes you think about. I think makes you think about how life short is. It makes you think about if other people can do it, why can't I? And just how can you leverage your past experience into something that you love. And so here I am now, owner of a beauty bar. Never in a trillion years could somebody be like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or what is it that you want to be? And I never could answer that question. Really couldn't. And the opportunities that fell on my lap, I was like, that sounds great. I can learn more there and I can, grow. And I would be like, yes, I would like that role, or apply for that opportunity and hope to get it. But I guess at the end of the day, for me, I have realized that sometimes it's the opportunities that come knocking to you versus you knocking on those doors that kind of make the greatest impact in your life.
We were talking about like you've had an amazing and incredibly successful corporate career. What about, because I understand, like when deaths happen, you really take a hard look at life and you kind of pull yourself back up. What was it about that brought you to entrepreneurship and a beauty bar?
Great question. And I have to kind of reflect on it as I respond to you as well. So corporate was awesome. Like when you grow up and you're like thinking about internships from high school and college and wearing the perfect outfit for your interview and being kind of nervous and researching about that company and making sure you answer the question, as positive and as, meaningful as possible. And that was all great. And then there came a point in my career where I had worked for startups, which were fantastic experiences, consulting companies, and then a couple, large companies. And one in particular kind of stung me the wrong way. And I guess if you get stung, it's always the wrong way. But and I realized that after I got to a certain level, there came to a point where they didn't know what to do with me. There's no other way for me to put it, and it was almost to a point where I was torn on thinking like, maybe I'm not doing something right. Maybe I'm not setting expectations. Maybe I can do more of this or less of that. And I couldn't figure it out because every employee rating, I got the top every time, got promoted numerous times, and all that good stuff. And I was at the highest salary grade for that organization. And I was told, by a leader pretty much that they, in not so many words, but that they kind of didn't know what to do with me either, right? And when I would come into these boardroom meetings, I would look around the table, and not only was I the only woman, I was also the only woman of color. So there has, I mean, this is just like one example is something got printed, like, oh, we forgot to print something. Priya, can you go get that? Right? Automatically. It wasn't like an option for anybody else to like volunteer or like suggest for someone else. But also from like other examples, right? And at first I was like, is it just in my head? Or like maybe they think like, you know, I'm the best person to go get that from the printer. I mean, I'm just trying to put it, you know, I'm like, and then it came to a point where I'm like, no, I think this is like as far as it's going to go. And I came home after one of those conversations, and don't get me wrong, there weren't a lot. There were like two major conversations, but the second one, and I was so taken aback that my husband said to me, well, babe, I guess you hit the glass ceiling. And
He recognized it before you did.
In my life, I was like, what? Like, that's not going to happen to me. I went to a great college. I got my MBA. Like, what do you mean? And then anyways, I went on to another organization, which was fantastic. Right. And like that was great experience. But then during that time, my brother took his own life and lost his battle with mental illness. And my grandmother who raised me passed. And when that happens within, you know, one was in August, one was in November of the same year, 2018, it about took me out. And I was like, wow, like you would never think like something like, you know, somebody taking their own life would happen to your family. And my grandmother lost her battle with cancer. So it was one of those things where I went to India because I had to like, you know, close out my grandmother's stuff. And on the way back, I was just really thinking like, if there was ever a time for me to figure out what that next chapter was in my life, it's now. And so I decided to leave corporate America. And fortunately, due to the company I was at and the type of retirement that I had, I was able to retire. And I use that word intentionally because many times it sounds odd. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you're so young. And I've worked since I was so young, always saved the max in every kind of retirement vehicle and had a savings because that's what I was taught being an Indian woman, because they're like, in America, there's like banks, there's like all these, you know, savings vehicles that you can utilize. And like sometimes Americans that are born here aren't utilizing those, but when you're coming from another country and you don't have that, it is so valued. And that's how I was taught. And that's a part of financial literacy that I believe that we need to continue to do in this country, right? And I worked out at a gym right on Welton called Bodies by Perseverance. And I worked out with a young lady named Vicki Howard for years. And she was like, you know, I would love to have a beauty bar on Welton if there ever came a point. Like, would you think of me? And like I said, I've known her for like over a decade. A building was available. I was able to get a lease in that building. And I was like, all right, Vicki, if there's ever a time, this is it. and here we are. And that's actually where I got my hair done in time.
Oh, you did? It's beautiful.
Thank you. And we have a esthetician also. I can never like figure out how to pronounce it, but esthetician. And she does makeup also. Her name is Bridget Black, and she did my makeup. And she calls it Zoom Ready Makeup, which I love. And there you go. And I'm like, I wanted something walkable, something that myself and my friends and my kids could go to. And that's what it is now. And so I cannot express to you when people say, when you do what you love, it doesn't feel like work.
Right.
I finally get it. Like, I'm like, oh, because let me tell you, I haven't gotten a paycheck yet.
No, I know.
So I'm just being really transparent, right? Like we have the lowest level of like the point of sale system because we don't have like money like that to give a whole bunch of money back to credit cards. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm calculating the commissions every 2 weeks and making sure our bills are paid and strategizing and figuring out the social media plan and in partnership with the individuals that I'm working with. But
that's great.
It's been a fun ride so far.
I'm so excited.
And we're brand new. We just opened in December. Yeah.
That's so great. I think, you know, more women, I hear the story all the time about how women, you know, get to a certain level, and myself included, and I'm the CEO of a nonprofit, and I feel incredibly accomplished, but I've been told so many times that, I've looked at like private equity and, M&A and turnaround, because the chamber was a turnaround situation too. And I would like to learn about that industry. And so went to meet with a lot of mostly men in that industry, and they looked at me like, you're crazy. Like, you're not going to go from where you are over here. Like, that's not going to happen. And I feel like, so often, women will stay put, or they'll do what you're doing and they'll transition into something and create the world that they want to see. And so kudos to you for doing that. And I'm sorry that it took the situation that you went through to do that, but you turned it into something positive, and that's super inspiring to me going through that now. I keep thinking, like, as I come out of grief, I want to do something with it. So I'm so amazed and inspired by you doing that. So thanks for sharing that story. So,
Absolutely.
okay, we ask the same questions because I feel like this gives our members an opportunity to first really get to know you, but then also learn from you as well. And we already have. I mean, you just talked about an incredible time of perseverance and what you did with it. But if you want to share another story or expand on the one, what is a time in your life when you've persevered, and how did you get through it? Like, what were the tactics that you used to persevere?
Great question. So let's see, time in my life that I've persevered. There's so many, and I know we all have so many. It's so hard to pick one, but I would say one of them had to do with when I was in, I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is when I was in corporate, and I was really struggling on how to be happy at work. And nothing like made sense to me, because I would go to work and I would think I'm doing everything that I can, then I would come home and I wasn't happy. And I was like praying, like, I hope my kids can't tell, you know what I mean? Because I was so happy to be around them. I'm so thankful for my family, and your kids are so happy when they come home from school. I mean, all this stuff. And then all I can think about is like the next day of work. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was one of those things where, even my husband was like, quit, like, leave. And I'm like, I will not give them that satisfaction. I am getting that paycheck. Like, yes, I could quit. Yes, thankfully we're in an opportunity where we can position where we can figure it out. But I was like, no, I'm going to get my retirement. I'm going to get my benefits, and I'm going to get my paycheck. Like, no, I'm going to figure it. You know what I mean? And that's what I held on to.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also had applied for other places. However, it wasn't anything more significantly better than
Right.
where I was. It was like further away on the highway, stuff like that. So I guess my tactics were, try to figure out a way to improve your situation by like understanding the different paths ahead of you, like, and talking to people and networking, like everybody says, which are great tactics. But I think for me, what has worked is waiting. Like, waiting for that time, because I kept looking and knocking and all that good stuff, and nothing was what I envisioned to be my next step. And again, I didn't know what that was, right? Because people would ask me, well, what is it that you want to do? I'm like, I don't know, but I'll know when I see it.
Yeah.
Right. And because I didn't go to school and be like, I'm going to be this, like the CEO of a company. Like, I never thought that. I was just like, I just pray that I have a good life and make my parents proud.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the extent of it, so those are my tactics, I would say, is like,
So true. Like, I feel like, and I think that this is especially relevant for women in sales, right? Or in business development. I've had this conversation with myself and others that I work with in business development. As women, we're so used to like pushing and working hard and working harder and doing more. And that sometimes it's hard for us to sit back and like be in a state of like peace, right? And let things come to us instead of trying to control it all the time. And there are times when you have to push and work hard, but there are times also when you just need to sit back and see what comes to you. And I think that's really hard for women to do because we've had to fight so hard to be where we are. It's such great advice, and it works.
Yes, and it works at the time it's meant to come to you. You know what I mean? I'm not saying like I didn't do anything at all, but you're right, like to sit back and kind of harness like that positive energy. And I'm a big
Yeah.
believer in you get back what you put into it.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a phrase like that. And that's also when I got more into fitness, right? When I was struggling at work,
Mm-hmm.
I put my energy, I was like, what could I do more of that
Yeah.
brings me happiness, right? So I got more into health and fitness and eating right and all that good stuff because I had a little bit more energy that I felt like I couldn't give in my
Right.
work environment that I put into that. And so I guess it's kind of brought me full circle because that energy I gave towards things I did enjoy, fitness, health, like beauty stuff, right? And here I am now on the other side trying to make it happen and make a business out of it.
That's so awesome. That's a story that I needed to hear today. Thank you. What's a mantra that you live by?
So if you come into my library in my home, every family album that I have has Carpe the Diem. I know it's just Carpe Diem.
Right.
But my husband and I traveled throughout Europe for 3 months and we had it all planned out, right? We're like, these are the 11 countries we're going to see. Here's the Eurail schedule. We're going to go to this palace and then this. And then, but then when we would go and we would see like a festival or a street fair and we're like, that looks so fun as we're like driving past it, right? And then one day we were like, you know what? Forget those tickets for that palace visit. We're going to go to the street fair, damn it, right?
Right.
And we would just be like, we're going to carpe the diem. And so ever since then, we added the word the in it. And so now my kids use it too.
That's awesome.
So I would say my mantra is carpe the diem. And I put a blurb in every family album, even though people, my kids know it, and just in case people don't understand it from the beginning, to say, enjoy what's in front of you. Don't keep looking for that next big thing. Just enjoy what you have in front of you and the next thing will come.
Yeah.
So that's like what I live by.
I love it. This like totally fed my soul today, Priya. Thank you. And I know our members are going to love it. I love you. Thank you so much for doing it.
I love you too. Thank you for all that you're doing. I am such a fan and you continue to inspire me, Kristen. So thank you for just your leadership, your friendship, and just know that we are all here for you as well.
Thanks, Priya.